What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens video. Today we're going to be starting a brand new series on the channel, Yu-Gi-Oh! End of Arc. So basically what this series is going to be is that I am going to be going over an arc from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Series and kind of giving my overall thoughts on the arc, kind of rating it out of 10, and basically kind of talking about the characters from that arc, the duels from that arc, and basically all the episodes from it, how much I liked it or how much I disliked it and all that kind of stuff. So I hope you guys enjoy, and let's get into this brand new series, Yu-Gi-Oh! End of Arc. So, I think the first place I think it would be a good point to start at is let's talk about the characters. And I'll kind of talk about each of the characters individually and kind of give my whole opinion on them. So, let's start off with Yuga. Yuga has been a really phenomenal character. I think he's been a really interesting character to me. I kind of didn't have high hopes for him that much. I mean, he kind of was my least favorite out of the main four for a while, but I think after the last two episodes, episodes 12 and 13, I really started to like a little bit more of him. Kind of getting his backstory did help a lot, and kind of the motivation that he had of why he created Rush Duels, why he was so invested in making a new rule set. I was really intrigued to learn all about that kind of stuff, and I cannot wait to see how Yuga kind of grows throughout the series. I mean, at the end of episode 13, which if you have not watched episode 13, the review that I did, go and check that out. I posted it yesterday. By the time I'm recording this, I should have posted it yesterday. Hopefully I can get it on the same day. So make sure you go and check out that video before you do this. And if you haven't checked out any of the other reviews, I've reviewed all episodes 1 through 13, with episodes 1 through 5 kind of being a little bit screwy because of the fact that they combined that all in the one video. But getting back on topic, I really can't wait to see kind of how Yu's character is throughout the series, what his whole motivation is, and kind of like his growth throughout the series, of why he chose to create Rush Duels, why he made this kind of rule set. I would like to know what that is kind of moving forward. So he's definitely have a higher expectation for me moving forward. And up next, we got my boy Rook. Rook is probably my favorite character from all the characters that we got so far in this season. He was probably the MVP of this arc for me. That or another character that we'll be talking about a little bit later. Rook has just been such an incredible character. He's been so well built. He has one of the most interesting things that I hope they kind of talk about it, because we haven't really seen it since episode 2, and that was his power. Basically, he talks about how he has this demon kind of power to where he's able to stop electronical devices from actually working. We see this in episode 1 when he's able to stop Yuga's bike, and then it was able to stop the drone from its countdown to kind of extend the time a little bit more. And we do see it in episode 2 when he kind of explained what it was, even though Yuga and Gakuto joked about it being like a phenomenon. So I think that was kind of funny. And out of all the Yu-Gi-Oh characters that we gotten so far, he is the strongest duelist out of all of the characters that we know so far. He is currently undefeated, 4-0 right now. He beat Yuga in episode 2. He beat Bakuro in episode 5. He beat Yoshio in episode 8 and beat Mayo Yushiro in episode 10. So he's been doing phenomenal with his dueling. He has been a really potent duelist, and I cannot wait to just see it, because I've really been enjoying his dueling. I more want to kind of see that Dragonic Slayer monster. That's probably my favorite monster that's been summoned so far in Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens, other than Yame Ruler and Real Demon Heavy Metal. I think those were probably the best summonings out of all of the monsters we got so far. So hopefully we got to see that monster again. And Chocolate Dragon, I really did like that monster as well. So it's going to be interesting seeing where he goes further down the series. I kind of want to know, kind of moving forward, and it kind of spoils a little bit episode 14 because it kind of goes into that a little bit, but I think it's alright. It's not going to be speaking about that much. I want to know his kind of relationship with Roman. We kind of know closer, like before the end of the arc, that Roa is kind of mad at Roman right now because of the fact of her betraying her. I don't know if this is just gonna like resolve in the first episode, which I hope it does not. I hope it does not do that, because here's the reason why. I feel like Rook in the back of his mind still kind of has that weary feeling of, is Roman gonna betray them again? Like, is she gonna stab them in the back again, or whatever the case is gonna be? I would really like to see what his kind of whole demeanor is going to be towards her, and kind of like how the relationship between those two characters are going to be further down the line. They probably will be resolved in the next episode, but I kind of would like to see a further development between these two characters to kind of grow because of after what happened, because Rook took it really hard. I mean, Gakuto kind of didn't. Yuga wasn't just surprised. Like, he knew it from the very beginning, so obvious. And Yuga is a carefree character. He doesn't really care what in the world is going on, so kind of would like to see how Rook kind of is further down the line. Speaking of Roman, that is actually the next character we're going to talk about. Now, I liked Roman. I really have been enjoying Roman's character so far. The kind of twist with learning that her brother was making her spy on these kids by taking pictures of Yuga and Gakuto and Rook, and basically studying their everyday lives about rush duels and all that kind of stuff was really interesting, and I've really been enjoying that, and kind of learning that she was kind of being blackmailed because of a secret, even though Yuga kind of figures that out in the last episode, in episode 13. He finds out that she's tone deaf, which I really want to kind of see where that goes when it comes to her playing the guitar and maybe even her vocals. I don't know if she actually sings in the band that she's a part in. It looks like it, but it might not be the case. I know like some people don't sing when they're in the band, so I don't know what the case is going to be. Now here's going to be a negative, and it's not a big negative, but it can be if they continue this. In episode 11, which was the duel between Roman and Gakuto, we had a very interesting thing with Roman. She basically went into this state where she didn't eat any food before she went into this duel, and she became into this hungry, angry kind of mode. I'll call it hangry because I feel like a lot of people would probably call it. She goes into this kind of state and she goes completely insane. And that, in fact, in that state, she was able to beat Gakuto in that duel, and was able to get them in a 1-1 situation where Yuga and Roa had to fight for the title of who would own Rush Duel. So it's kind of an interesting thing of that. However, I hope that this is the last time we see Roman in this angry form. Now, I know it was supposed to be funny. I mean, it referenced a Snickers joke. I mean, come on, it's funny. However, and maybe it's just me, but this reminds me way too much of Yuya's Berserk mode from Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5. If you guys don't remember, Yuya always went into like Berserk mode, which was basically Zark trying to take control of him when he gets angry. I did not, and by the way, I did not like Berserk mode at all. There's only 3 times where I accepted it, and I think it was a perfect time to have it. The first time he did it when he faced, what's his name? Kachidoki, I believe was his name. It was the fighting kind of guy we learned in Season 3 was part of Duel Academy. Then the second time when he was facing the Owless Force members after those 3 Knight characters got carded, and it kind of made Yuto angry, and it kind of made them get taken control. And then in Season 3 when Yuya goes berserk after the doctor rubbed his greasy hands all over Yuzo. I mean, what the heck, man? And it just made him angry. That was also the duel that has probably one of the most iconic summonings in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! The summoning of Odd Eye's Raging Dragon, which is an incredible scene. The music is playing in there is incredible as well, but I'm not talking about that. That's not the point. In a way, it's like a comic relief of that. And I honestly really don't like it because it also, and kind of the same thing with Yuya, it didn't really show like they were dueling. It felt like, in that case, it felt like Zark was dueling inside of them. Like, it was their angry kind of state, and Zark took control of that and basically took control of the duel. That's how it always felt like to me. With this case, it felt like Roman's stomach, in a way, was kind of dueling Gakuto in this kind of state. So I kind of hope this is the last time we do see it. I really doubt it's going to be the case. If it is going to return, I hope it goes to a way to where Roman tries to get out of this state where she can actually duel without being hungry, because that's another thing too, is she doesn't know how to duel without being hungry, because remember in episode 3, she didn't know how to tribute, she didn't know how to play spells and traps. That kind of bothered me. So that is a thing I hope gets established on later on. And also, hopefully, going forward, we kind of get an explanation of her deck. I'm kind of upset that we have no explanation of how she got her deck in that duel between Gakuto. So hopefully she explains how she obtained it, maybe from Roa or Yuga got together or something like that, which would be awesome, by the way. So yeah, that's kind of my insight of Roman. Hopefully they continue the story with her and Roa to kind of like, maybe it's a case where Roman tries to surpass her cousin in a way. I keep wanting to call Roa her brother. Jeez, I'm so used to calling him that. But wants to try to surpass her cousin after being in a state where she couldn't do anything because she was being blackmailed. So maybe they can continue on with that. But that's kind of my whole insight of Roman and kind of what I want to see further down the line. I mean, she's been an enjoyable character, and I can't wait to see what they do with her character later on in the story. Now let's talk about my boy Gakuto. Gakuto is honestly, he's been an interesting member of the crew. He is one of the main cast in the final one we're going to be talking about. That's part of Yuga's group. He's basically the Goha Elementary School's president. And honestly, really, he has been down for me. I mean, the first episode, I kind of was turned off of him immediately. I mean, the kind of overreaction that he was having in that first episode, I really didn't like. I'm going to be completely honest. I didn't like that at all. He kind of grew it more into me, especially in episode 4, which was his main focus series. We kind of learned more about him, and it really made me respect this character a lot. And honestly, I really want to have some high expectations for this character after that episode, because honestly, for right now, from what we've known about him, really, with Gakuto, he doesn't really have a motive, and I feel like in that way kind of hurts him, because I don't think he really has anything to go for him. He doesn't have any backup. Like right now, the only thing I can see for him is dueling, and he's lost both of his duels already. He lost to Yuga, and he lost to Roman's stomach. Yes, I'm gonna say it like that, because that was the truth. Roman, or I'll say Roman in her hangry form to be a little bit more fair to people that love Roman, like as like the favorite girl protagonist out of all, or girl main lead out of all of the characters we've seen. But one thing that I want Gakuto to have going on in the series, and the kind of same thing with Roman, is some more wins. Roman is 1-1 right now, and I feel like those two need to kind of catch up to where Yuga and Gakuto or Rook are at this point. I feel like they need to kind of get them back up there and kind of be with the group. Maybe 2 or 3 more duels each, I feel like would be really good for their characters, so I kind of hope they kind of have that. And also, give Gakuto kind of a purpose to duel and kind of a motive to duel. I feel like he has no motive right now, and I think that kind of hurts him in a way, because there really isn't things to look forward to in this kid. Maybe you can have something with him being a president, or you can do something else further down the line. You can introduce like a character that Gakuto really like respects and cares for, like a brother or something like that, and well, not an actual brother, like maybe someone from the council, and maybe he wants to try to help them get better of their situation or something like that. Give him something to do, and I feel like that would really show more for Gakuto, and I think that would really help his character a lot going further down the series. So that's kind of my expectations for Gakuto. I've been really enjoying him. After this loss, he kind of dropped a little bit for me, but I think he's still been an enjoyable character so far from these first 13 episodes of Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens. And now let's get into the rival, guys. My boy Roa Kirishima. He has been one of the most, I feel like, since Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens has started. I mean, he's been a really well done rival, I feel like, so far. He's been a really good rival to Yuga, and his motivations have been incredible. I really do like what Roa's kind of motivations are. Kind of what I want to see with his character moving forward is kind of see more of his like relationship and his kind of like motivation towards Otis, because remember, he doesn't know why Otis chose Yuga to have the Seventh Road Magician. Remember, he thought he was the one that was chosen for Seventh Road Magician because he was in that same flashback with Yuga and thought that he was going to be the owner of Seventh Road Magician, the legacy that Otis was going to create to be the Duel King. So I feel like seeing his motivations going forward, maybe just to try to surpass Yuga would be cool, or just trying to like surpass Otis himself, I think would be a really interesting motivation for him. And I can't really wait to see what his character kind of goes moving forward. I wish I could talk a little bit more about this character, but honestly, we've really only gotten introduced to him in episode 10. So he kind of was in the short amount of episodes that we gotten so far. I mean, we got introduced to him in episode 3, but he really didn't speak, and then he kind of like made like a reaction in episode 9. So we really haven't seen any of this character, so I can't talk about him that much, but I can't wait to see how the rival kind of goes. Maybe he'll beat the main protagonist in one of these duels. I think that would be really good for his character if he beats the main protagonist. I mean, I think every rival except for maybe Chaz has beaten the main protagonist. I mean, Jack beat Yusei in the flashback. Reiji beat Yuya the second time they dueled. Kaido beat Yuma every single time, basically. And then Chaz, I guess, lost every single duel, so I guess Chaz, again, would be the only exception. So, oh, and I guess Revolver, too, because he drew against Playmaker and then lost both times, so I guess got Revolver as well. But hopefully he gets a win against Yuga later down the line. I think that was probably my biggest want to kind of going forward, to kind of make him more stand out to be that kind of rival. Now, before we actually start talking to people from the Gohan perspective, name off a couple of characters. Honestly, all the other characters that speaking about that I don't talk about Gohan corporations have not really clicked with me yet. These characters have not really interested me in terms of the story wise or even character wise, to be completely honest with you guys. So hopefully further down the line, if they're going to be a part of it still, because their duels kind of felt like one-shot duels are going to be like one-off duels, to be completely honest. That's what they kind of felt like, but hopefully I'm kind of wrong going forward. So let me read off a couple of characters, just some notable ones. Bakuro, Metsuboro, Yoshio, Kan, and Yoshiro. These characters, and even like the group of Kan, like his group and Metsuboro's group and Bakuro's group, all their groups, really, they really haven't done anything to interest me. I guess Bakuro, I feel like, is the one that's done the most, and maybe is the most interesting for me personally, because everything that happened with these characters was because of him. Because remember, he tried to slander Rush Duels at the very beginning of episode 5 until Rook was able to make him see the light in the way and made him enjoy Rush Duels, to where he made a really good article, and even that kind of funny article at the end of the episode where he was like kind of the king to Yuga, Roman, and Gakuto. So I think that was kind of funny there. And then it just led to chains of events like Metsuboro would not have known Yuga or like that he was the creator of Rush Duels without that newspaper article. Yoshio wouldn't have known about the interview with Rook if it wasn't for Bakuro making that article. And I don't even think, I think Khan knew them from the newspaper as well. So the newspaper has combined them a lot towards that and towards Yuga. I think even Gohan Corporation got a hold of one of the newspapers. So that's kind of interesting as well, that a lot of the stuff that he did from this one character is set up a whole bunch of chain of events. So that's kind of interesting, but he really has done nothing, really. I mean, he found the tapes of the old, like, past of kind of like what in the world had happened with Hologram Man, or Otis. I keep wanting to call him that, but he's Otis. That's his actual name. And kind of like we also see the flashback of Roa's perspective as well in like the movie kind of cinematic. That's how, at least I found out that Roa was in that flashback. So he's done much there. But the other characters that really haven't interested me, Mitsuboro wants to create his own style, kind of like how Yuga and Roa were kind of doing, but it was going to be all with ramen. Maybe it's because I don't like ramen, but honestly, his motivations don't appeal to me at all. I mean, that's kind of weird, but I understand he's a ramen lover, so I guess that's fair. Yoshio has no motivation. Literally, the reason why he was even introduced was because he was mad that Mimi, his mom, aka the spy of the elementary school, from Goa Corp, the 37-year-old woman, might I add, he has no motivation because he went after Rook in the game because he had an article and he was trying to get help to kind of be with his mom, and Rook just said a smart aleck he said a smart aleck comment to that question, and it kind of went after him in that regards, and that was just because of the fact his mom wanted to make him spaghetti. So yeah, really nothing there for him. And Omayo Yoshio, probably the most interesting one for me, I guess, because, you know, it's more for the pity of the character because I kind of feel bad for him because of the fact that literally he's like shamed out of the group. I mean, no one remembers his name. I don't even think people remember the drummer, and the drummer really doesn't care. So I feel kind of bad for him because he wants to be acknowledged, and Rook does acknowledge him after the duel, so he kind of has that line, and they kind of shame him afterwards, so kind of does suck. Honestly, I feel like we might not even see him again, really, in Rose Gold, but he might be in the background, but I don't think he's going to really speak for the rest of the series, I feel like. And maybe even these other characters, they might just be one-shot characters and be done with it, but they at least try to play some role with them in the arc. So I think they might be done after this arc, to be completely honest. If they're completely done with the arc, it's alright. I mean, maybe it's just because they didn't appeal to me as much, but that's kind of how I feel with these characters right now. They don't really interest me that much. But hey, I completely understand if you do like Mitsuboro or something like that. I mean, they're interesting characters. They just haven't really appealed to me from the 13 episodes we got. And maybe it's just because we don't really know much about the characters. I mean, we do know kind of like Roman's like backstory with like Ro and like their kind of relationship. Rook, we kind of have like his power, and Gakuto, I guess, being a school president, I don't really know for him. And then Yuga kind of having the past with Otis and the Seventh Row Magician card. So yeah, I think that kind of hurts them in a way, but if they're going to continue on, can't wait to see what they really do. If they get some importance, maybe they'll get their full-on episodes. I really doubt it, but you never know, to be completely honest. So real quickly, I'll go over Goha Corporation because I have a lot to be talking about. I already realized that I'm almost like I'm a little bit more than 20 minutes into this already. I've been talking about the characters for a very long time, but I'll talk about Goha real quickly. There's really not much to talk about them. Mr. Goha really hasn't done anything at all. He's only said two different words of dialogue. He laughed, ha 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 ha, and then he said 6666, basically saying 66 in a way because of the fact that he was trying to say the article of where, like, if you use a legal card, you're automatically disqualified from dueling. So that was kind of the thing. And then the 5 of the members of Top of Hexagon know nothing about those characters. We know they're complete idiots because they were trying to see, like, I remember when they got a hold of newspapers, like, what does this robot do? Like, is this going to be, like, a whole change and all that kind of stuff? Like, I don't remember what they said, but, like, is this, like, some kind of, like, device or something like that? Like, is it mechanics of the rush duel, like, whatever it was, but, like, they've done nothing. Let's be completely honest. And then Mimi, probably the most notable one out of the 6. She is the weakest out of them all. She's known as number 6 out of all of Top of Hexagon. Kind of implying that she's the weakest. In order for them to they got that notebook because she infiltrated the elementary school to try to get close to Yuga to try to get the notebook from them. And that's basically kind of how, like, their story kind of began with them. And honestly, she hasn't really done anything either. I feel like there's been more jokes with her than anything. So hopefully she gets a little bit more serious down the line. But right now, she hasn't really done that much to interest me, though. So hopefully they kind of pick her up a little bit further down the series. Now that I'm done rapid firing over the characters, let's just talk about the duels. Because these are going to be a little bit shorter, I feel like. I just wanted to talk about the characters all individually. The duels that we got so far, there was a lot of kind of fillery kind of duels. I kind of mentioned it with the characters before, like Yuga versus Metsuboro, Rook versus Yoshio, Yuga versus Khan. Like those kind of duels didn't really hit me that well. They kind of felt more fillery and didn't really appeal to me. I feel like the only duels, which actually, let me read off all the duels that we got from the first 13 episodes, just to kind of remind everyone of all the duels. We had Yuga versus Otis, Hologram Man, Yuga versus Rook, Yuga versus Roman, Yuga versus Gakuto, Rook versus Bakuro, Yuga versus Metsuboro, Yuga versus Mimi, Rook versus Yoshio, Yuga versus Khan, Rook versus Mayo Yoshiro, Roman versus Rook, and then Yuga versus Roa. So those are all the duels that we've gotten so far. Honestly, out of all of the duels, because there was 12 duels out of it, probably 4, 5, I would say maybe half. I would say half. I would say half of the duels probably interest me. Probably the first 4 episodes really didn't intrigue me. I didn't even think about the first episode, but now kind of knowing the whole thing with Otis, I think that duel kind of appealed to me more. And I mean, you got Blue Eyes. I mean, come on. I mean, that's such an iconic monster. Why wouldn't I love that duel still? But and then you have like Roman versus Gakuto, even though people kind of already know my thoughts on that. I was a little disappointed. I will say though, if there was any duel that I would change the result in out of all the duels we got, it would be that duel, to be completely honest. I don't think Roman needed that win at that point. I think you could have still grown her character even without that, but maybe I'm going to be wrong because of how they're kind of doing it. So maybe they'll prove me wrong, and maybe I'll have a different opinion on that. But right now, Roman versus Gakuto would be the only duel I really would change, I guess. And overall, the dueling action out of them all, there was some good dueling. Like, I loved Roman versus Yuga, even though like she didn't use her own deck, which I was kind of disappointed of. And then you had Yuga versus Rook and Gakuto. I loved those duels. Yuga versus Mimi, I loved when Light Across appeared. I really do like that monster out of Yuga. I think that's probably my favorite one he summoned, even though it was really that card and Seven's Room Magician are the only cards you really summon. Well, I guess if you don't want to count full Meteor Impact, but honestly, those are the only cards that really Yuga has used in his, like, as his ace monsters. And then Yuga versus Roa probably is my favorite duel out of all 13 of the episodes. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Such an incredible duel. I mean, you had Roa's summoning chant along with that great music that played. It was just incredible. As for some of the other duels, like the filler ones, didn't interest me, like Yuga versus Mitsuboro. When I didn't like my ranking of the duels, it was actually my least favorite duel out of them all. I had that more over Rook versus Yoshio, which had no motivation whatsoever. That kind of duel was boring, and so was Yuga versus Metsuboro for me. But that's kind of what the case with filler episodes is, that they might seem boring, they might interest some people, but honestly, it doesn't. In it has to depend on what the character is and what this motivation is. Like I said before with the characters, they didn't really interest me, so it kind of took me away from the duel, and that's why I kind of had Yuga versus Mitsuboro so low. So that was kind of the case. But as some future duels that I would like to see kind of moving forward, maybe this might be a weird one, but Rook versus Roa, I think that would be a really good duel. Maybe that can be a good win for Roa and get a good win for Rook, kind kind of pull him down in the rank skills right now because he's undefeated, kind of get him away from that undefeated status and kind of make him have some vulnerability, excuse me, I cannot pronounce words today, but maybe you can show him that like he's not this indestructible force, God. But that would be an interesting duel, maybe a rematch between Roman and Gakuto, maybe just for a fun duel, and Gakuto maybe can get that win over, I don't know. And then maybe for a last one, maybe, I don't know, Roman versus Mitsuboro, just because they're food addicts. I really don't know what the characters, or maybe you can get like a new character introduced or something like that, kind of going in further on. Or actually, Rook versus Roman, they kind of have a bad relationship right now, with Roman kind of betraying them. So having a duel between those two would be really interesting to see how they go. Since Rook loves to duel, so I think that would be a way to kind of like get those two to be in good tides again, I guess would be the best word to describe that. But those are some duels that I would like to see further going down the road. And the final topic that I'm going to be talking about is the episodes as a whole. This is more talking about what the story that we kind of gotten so far, what my thoughts are on that. So to kind of explain the story, what we got, Yuga basically wanted to create this new like type of dueling so it would make it easier for kids to get into it and have fun with dueling again. Rook shows him like monument, this relic that he had that basically talks about those. He challenges Otis to a duel. He wins and rush duels are installed, and basically it sets all these chains of events to where like Rook talks about wanting to become the duel king. He duels Yuga, the owner, for like to make it public because Rook didn't want to make it public, even though Yuga did make it public afterwards. So like that was kind of funny in a way, but like you started sending off these chains of events. And then this is where you get into the meats of Roa Kirishima. Roa Kirishima kind of is in question of why he was not chosen for this because, like I said earlier, he was with Yuga when this incident happened, when Yuga got Seven's Road Magician, and he kind of wants to become the king of duels. So basically, him, Rook, and Roa, and Yuga all want to become the duel king right now, and it's kind of interesting to see where they're at this point. But Mr. Goha himself is trying to stop rush duels from happening. He wants to like eliminate them. We see this in episode 5 when he was just deleting all of the videos that were posted on like we'll call it YugiTube. Why not? The Yu-Gi-Oh YouTube world. So he was basically deleting all the videos, trying to get rid of rush duels. We even see he was in a meeting with his subordinates to try to delete rush duels to get it off of the planet. And that's something I majorly want to go forward throughout the story. And it has to be the storyline of Mr. Goha wants to get rid of rush duels. Maybe it has something to do with Hologram Man. I think probably their dynamic is going to be really interesting. Maybe he knows Otis. Maybe it's like his brother or something like that. That would be really cool, like a kind of like a brotherly rivalry or like a sibling rivalry, because they might do cousins again. I don't know, but kind of see a rivalry between those two and like kind of learn that he's going after Yuga because of him being the owner of Rush Duels, and he kind of helps them prepare for that battle they got to go into to protect Rush Duels so that people can enjoy dueling again. So I think this is going to be a really interesting storyline if they go down this route, which I think is where the route they're going to be going. The one thing I am interested in about is that these AIs. In episode 6, we get a quick shot of Kaizo going into the ramen theme shop, and basically it sees these like tower AIs watching over the people. And the reason why I talk about this is in episode 13 we kind of get a zoom in towards like the eye of the like the tower, and we see this person in there. So maybe it's someone higher than Mr. Goha. Maybe it's like a right-hand man to Mr. Goha. Maybe it's more involved with this character. Maybe he knows what in the world is going on. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's the relative to Otis. Or maybe it is Otis. I don't know. You want to make that theory if you want to. But it is interesting to see what is going to be kind of moving forward with these kind of tower-like structures. Are they going to just watch Rook or Yuga and Co. as they rush duel to kind of get a better understanding of it to kind of like take it down once and for all or something like that? I think that would be a really cool and interesting thing to see with that. That's probably my biggest one, is from episode 13 of what in the world that was all about. I want to learn more about that and what kind of the motive is for that person, because I don't think we know who that person is. So hopefully we get to see further down the line, but we'll just have to wait and see. And now this is going to be the final part of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed that big old rant that I had, basically talking about all 13 episodes and kind of making predictions. Now I'm going to be giving a ranking out of 10. I'm going to be completely honest. Before episode 13, it was a 7 out of 10 for me. But after what we got, that ending scene from episode 13, I probably give this a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10. I really have been enjoying Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens. It is blown over my expectations. I thought this was just going to be a crappy parody of a Yu-Gi-Oh! That's what it kind of felt like it was going to be. But this is beating my expectations for the show. I've been really invested in the show, into the story. I think what makes it low is some of the characters. Again, I only was really interested in 5 of the characters, really, and maybe Mr. Gohan a little bit more so, because I don't want him to be a joke of a villain, because I really do like villains in shows. So I kind of hope that he gets more involved with this, and that's probably my biggest hope, is that he is like the main antagonist of maybe the entire show. Maybe this person that controls this big statue like AI thing is the main antagonist for season 1, and then you get more into Mr. Goha in season 2 and do something like that. Or you can do a reverse. It really doesn't matter, to be completely honest. But the only thing that really kind of bothers me is I feel like we haven't got that big character that I want to see. Like, you have the main 5, but there's not a character that I have really been a hard investment in. And what I mean by that is, like, there isn't like a character like I'm very interested in the story other than the 5 that I mentioned before. So I kind of want them, if you want these side characters to be more involved, get them in more duels and more episodes, because that's what the thing is dragging the duel. And then like the kind of like one-off duels that kind of felt like some of the duels just didn't appeal to me. So it kind of was that kind of situation where it didn't appeal to me at all. So that's what kind of hurt it as well. So hopefully they kind of get better and kind of calm down and get more interesting, more not serious duels, but more, I don't know what the right word is, more, I guess more involved duels to the story, I guess would be the best way to describe it. That's probably my only one I think that would make it a better. But honestly, 8 out of 10 for a show that I thought would be a 2 out of 10 is really, really well done. And I cannot wait to see what goes on in the next arc of Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens. And guys, that's going to be it for this video. This is probably one of the longest videos that I have ever made, and that's alright. I mean, it happens. There was a lot to talk about, and I mean, I literally basically talked about 13 episodes plus further down the line, so I'm not kind of surprised where I'm at in this point. And that is basically the end of the first part of the Yu-Gi-Oh! End of Arc series. I hope you guys enjoyed, and let me know some predictions that you would like to see further down the line, and let me know your ranking of the show so far. Like, do you think do you agree with me and it's an 8 out of 10, or do you think it's a 9 out of 10, a 10 out of 10, which I don't like to judge stuff at 10 out of 10, to be completely honest. That means that it was perfect, but some people might think of that way, or maybe you just didn't like it at all, and maybe you're going to drop the show, which I do feel bad if you really are going to drop this series. I mean, it's been doing well so far, I think, so I can't wait to see you guys' thoughts on this down below. And that's going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching. And until next time, guys, take care and have yourself a great rest of your day. Bye, guys.